Hi, everyone, and welcome aboard. I don't think you can see my head. That's probably a good thing. There you go. Welcome aboard, as I say, for Thursday's edition of Trading Buddies. Thank you for being our Trading Buddies. And how are you doing in this incredible market that we're witnessing, due in no small part, of course, to what's going on in Ukraine. And I don't think we've heard the end of that for some time to come. How are you adapting to it? How are you? Hi, Swee. How are you getting along? How's your trading going? Are you trading? Are you getting any money in the bank? They're all good questions that I want to know the answers to. Look, I'm seeing very, very differing scenarios. Some trends are going fantastic, others not so much. And the ranges that we're seeing are interesting, yet all over the shop and very, very difficult. You've got to be in the right place at the right time. I think Julian was speaking about that on Sunday. You've just got to be there when it happens, and that makes it tough unless you've got the time. And time is an enemy of most people, and in particular myself at the moment. I am in no trades currently. But before we go any further, let's have a look at the pound versus the US dollar, and that range scenario of which I spoke is very evident here this week on pound versus the US dollar. So trading the breakout of this is not something that I really am in love with. Of course, like I said before, you could make the argument that when this does break, it will break something like that. And I agree 100%, because it will be probably an event that causes such a move, given that I guess we've settled down a little bit in Ukraine in terms of there are no surprises going on at the moment. Now Putin's getting investigated for war crimes, and I don't know if the nuclear thing's still on the table, off the table, until one of those scenarios kind of rears its head and says, well, okay, here's what's happening. We're probably just guessing at the moment. I can see a little trade line coming through there. That's somewhat interesting. So end of the conversation I've just had with myself. I won't be trading the breakout on this at the moment. Even if I chose to, you're trading straight into the pivots here and straight into the low here, and you've got 150 odd pips to contend with. So you've got to get 150 odd pips before you get profit in the bank. Not something that I'm keen to do, frankly. This looks one of two ways. We've got an untested daily pivot below us here on pound versus the dollar. If this candle was to close, and it looks as though it may, underneath the trade line, I would then be looking for a buying bar to answer the call of the sellers here. And if it fails to take out that high, then I think there's probably a trade on offer here. Got to be careful, though, trading into the low of the day. So that will be the problem. Let's have a look at the 30-minute chart, see how that looks. So let's, for argument's sake, say that price were to close there. Next candle does this. I would place an order underneath there, take profit about there somewhere, and get out there. Pretty simple. Pretty simple scenario. Just got to set up and then, of course, play the game. Have we got enough? It looks as though we've got tons of room to take profit there. So I'll just confirm that. So say there, yeah, it's only a tiny candle, isn't it? But there's tons of room for profit. So maybe if this sneaks down a little bit further, then pulls back, gives us a decent sized candle to trade. That is my intention. All right. Those of you who have been in the show for the last couple of weeks will know that I have been trading euro yen to the short side. And since we got down to here, trailing my stops pretty tightly, and we put our stop down here somewhere. Can't remember where, 128.50. And that has now been collected. and we are out of euro yen, but a decent profit there, so that's good. That's the only trade I've kind of been in for the last week or so. Quite a few break-even trades in the last 3 or 4 weeks, as the market has shown us incredible volatility across the smaller time frames in particular, of course. Interesting to note that the bigger time frames are showing us beautiful technical levels. And if you have a look at this chart, since the war broke out, we've just gone straight off the top, straight to the bottom. The challenge, of course, is staying in. And when your trade stops to these big moves back at you, kind of scary. That candle there was kind of scary. Fortunately, we stayed in, not by much, but we stayed in. And now, of course, we're out at that support level. Now, I believe that from a bias and fundamental point of view, it's almost impossible for me to be thinking long euro yen. However, the chart tells me something completely different to that. And if I do see a higher low in here, particularly off that trade line, I'm going to have to place a small trade and try and catch this long. Such is the peculiarity of where we are at the moment, that it's I was going to say a mind expletive deleted. It's a mind scrambled, let me put it that way, because you have to adopt. Sorry, you don't have to do anything. I have to adopt a slightly defensive attitude. And that leads me towards a currency that I think is in all sorts, for obvious reasons, the euro, and a currency that traditionally is a flight to safety. And hence one of the reasons that I'm in this position, but it was a genuine setup to take it, or was in this position. So now we've hit the flip side. Can I trade it long? That's the dilemma that these sort of scenarios put into your head. And the only thing you can do, really, in my humble opinion, is trade what you see and control your risk accordingly. You will have times where there is an announcement, there is a speech, there is something that takes place relative to what's going on in Ukraine, or even something else around. The world still ticks over. There are other events taking place that can change this market in a heartbeat. So, the technicals are being adhered to. We had a look at the pound versus the dollar there a minute ago. Hits a support level and goes into a consolidation pattern. I'm seeing that all over the charts. Look at the Swissy versus the yen. We were trying to trade this during the week. It has just hit these highs and come back off, and hit these lows and come back off. So technically speaking, there's no reason to think you can't trade in here. But I think the risk factor with anything could happen anytime has to be in back of mind, or even in front of mind, as you control your risk going into these trades. Everything's happening the way I didn't see it happening as far as the Aussie is concerned. Aussie's just kicking butt at the moment. I wasn't expecting that, and have been waiting to jump on it short. All I can say about that is, yippee, I'll get a better price if I'm right. If I'm wrong, and this continues to go, and I don't know why it's continuing, apart from the fact that I think the stock market is probably dragging it up with commodity prices. That's probably the key behind this. I know the Aussie had a good GDP figure yesterday, although it was below par, as according to the punters, but it still was a decent figure. And the Aussie just seems to be going nuts against just about everything. But I would counsel that be very, very cautious of that, because it is very, very close to resistance on most charts that I'm looking at. So I'm not looking to trade the Aussie long at all, looking for it to turn around and come back. Still got this target here, but I want to hurry up to get there. We've only got a day or so before we can erase that as a time and price thing. So, look, I will go through a few things a little bit later. I see Ash has joined us. Mate, how's it going?
Going well, mate. Yeah, going well. I mean, what you just said about the technicals seem to be being adhered to, I think is absolutely right. There seems to be some decent levels that are being supported. FTSE's pretty bullish this morning. It's having a little edge to the upside, and I think that looks like it will hold as well. It's not all that positive. You know, there's the statement about all ships rise in a is it all ships go up in a rising tide? I can't remember the wording, but
yep,
you know,
just very close to the mark.
So, well, we're not having all ships rise, but we're having some of the big guns that are rising. I'll show you what the chart sort of showing at this moment. Decent. Now, I've already taken my trade this morning because at 7 o'clock, just before 7 o'clock, I got a monthly pivot just seen, and I took profit just before I got to the weekly pivot. But actually, looks pretty bullish all across the board here. I'm not seeing too much in the way of negativity. I guess you remember a couple of days ago we had the story of BP that were going to get hammered because they would have to pull their Rosneft deal with the Russian company, and looks like they could lose about 20 million in the deal because they're going to have to renege on it effectively and come out. Down around about 7% initially on the open. I think they recovered to around about 6% lower. Already this morning, they're up 2%, and this is 2 days ago, and they had a decent day yesterday as well. So they're coming back, and I guess a lot of this is because the price of oil is surging, $115 a barrel currently on WTI.
Nuts, isn't it?
Oh, it's crazy, mate. And we'll probably get a little bit more in the way of. Let me just have a look when the next. I think it's already been actually. Let me just see this. Here we go. Yesterday. Yeah, OPEC meetings yesterday. I suspect OPEC probably said that they were leaving the production of oil around about, or the supply of oil around about the 400,000 barrels a day mark, which is just not enough. And the Chevron CEO said quite recently that he doesn't see a problem with supply. You know, he said the supply is absolutely fine, but the geopolitical situation is increasing the problem, and therefore they're probably unlikely to do anything. So given that, I suppose it's no real surprise that the likes of Shell again are up 1% on the day, BP up around about 2% on the day. So the big guns are doing okay. The likes of Glencore, Anglo American, and Rio Tinto are also up north of 2%, and they're worth mentioning because they are commodity stocks. You know, so the commodities are doing well. We know what's going on with wheat prices and all this sort of thing. So many of the stocks on the FTSE 100 that tend to drive the price are performing very, very well at the minute. And I guess that would suggest that this market is going nowhere but up. Now, if we were to take this onto what would we do with all that information? Well, the first thing we've got to do is find out where support is. Now, I was just fortunate. It was just one of those things that 5 minutes before the market opened, I got a nice price point, and it's well worth trying, you know, taking a punt down here because it is a bounce area. You know, we've got now, you look at this on a 4 hour, we are trending to the upside. Actually, it's not that nice to look at on the 4 hours. So let's look on the hourly. On the hourly, you can see that we're trending to the upside. All we're then really trying to do is find out where support is. Monthly pivot, and this trend line was an obvious point, you know. So nice. Take the trade there. Hang on if you're somebody who likes to hold on to the trade, or come out where I do, which is at first contact. So now you're looking for where it could retrace to, and at this stage, I mean, whether it's going to hold this level, whether this level holds it, is doubtful. I don't see any information which suggests that it's going to hold right now. But things can change on a 5 minute time period. So at this stage, we're really looking at around about here. So a little drop down in the FTSE to probably around about 74.12. So a 15 pip drop, and there's an entry. The month that the weekly pivot would be an entry. Starts to break down here, then we're suggesting range. And I guess my point was that the levels are holding, you know, surprisingly so. There will be a recession. I don't think there's any doubt in people's mind that there will be a recession. Jerome Powell said yesterday that he will do what he has in his power to curb inflation. He almost seems to be ignoring. You know, he did say that the conflict has added a layer of complexity, but he seems to be more keen on focusing on the inflation aspect than the fact that we may still need that liquidity in the market. So a 0.5% rise is likely when we get to the 16th. And then after that, I guess it's just judging it as we go. And maybe that's now the flip. Before, I think they had the path to go, the forward guidance is that we will say, we are going to say from today, we're raising interest rates, raising interest rates, raising interest rates. Now they're going to be a little bit keener to say, we're going to raise interest rates this time, probably next time, but let's check. I think that's the, where the rhetoric may well change. The sanctions will, they're going to affect things. The sanctions are going to affect things right across the world. Some companies are being pulled from the FTSE 100 index. So we're seeing any Russian linked companies, the likes of Polymetal, as an example, are going to be taken off the FTSE 100. So Russian-based companies are gone. And I think that's going to be the same with indexes across the globe. Surprising what's happened with business. Business is hammering Russia. They really are having an all-out attack, offensive against Russia. It's not just what the governments are doing. Governments are doing what they can. And I'll tell you what the most impressive thing I'm finding here, mate, is that we may well have, where we've sort of like talked before about a third world war being a nuclear war. At this stage, the third world war is shaping out to be purely economic. Not purely, because obviously you have got an aggressive factor in there. But the way that the world war is playing out is purely economic. Sanctions are being piled on Russia, and their central bank has raised interest rates by 20%. I mean, that is that is showing how concerning the situation is for them over there. Moody's.
I mean, I'm going to make light of this just for a second, and I don't mean to, because it's not a funny situation. But even the Russian vodka's coming off the shelves here.
It is, mate. It is.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely right. Well, the Weatherspoons are saying that they're not going to sell any Russian beer over here.
Yep.
So and this is the unprecedented factor of where we are. And I guess social media has had a huge part to play in this. Because this is not a propaganda war that has been staged through traditional newspaper articles that you read on a daily basis. This is a propaganda war that is being based on a second by second account of what's happening. And it means that companies are getting involved. They're quite happy to get involved. And as soon as one does it, another one big powerful one does it, and then another one does it. There's just this snowball effect. So Putin may not actually find that there's enough aggression in a way to launch a nuclear attack, because the West are basically going, no problem, you want to do that, we'll just squeeze you. Even if you take Ukraine, we're going to squeeze you. So be careful, because there's going to be potentially people on the streets in your own country because you're not then able to feed them. Obviously,
no potential. That's happening. That's happening already.
That's happening. Yeah, I mean, China is the only fly in the ointment, isn't it? And they seem to be coming online. China need wheat and the likes from Ukraine, so they're going to get hurt. It's not like China are just in a completely different part of the world and they can't get affected by this. This is a global economy now, and it's it's never been more integrated. So China will are recognizing the fact that if they can't feed their people with energy in the way of fueling their vehicles to move things around, and in the way of energy by fueling their citizens' bellies, then of course they're going to get involved. China is in a tight. I agree with that, John. China is in a really tight spot because they've got the allies. The alliance with Russia on one side of the coin, and they've got in a way their responsibility to their own people on the other side of the coin. And what's going to win? What China have done is be very clever with their rhetoric. They are not condemning the actions of Russia. That's one thing they can do. One thing they can do to maybe not be drawn into taking sides in a way, but at the same time they're probably on the phone to Putin on a daily basis going, how are we going to resolve our problems? Because now we've got problems. North Korea have now backed China. Have now backed Russia. But you've got the UAE and Saudi Arabia, which incidentally are the two main oil producers for OPEC, are basically saying we're not getting involved. And that also suggests that the likelihood that we're going to get further supply is off the table. And where do the Americans go for more supply? Iran. And if they go to Iran, they've got to do a nuclear deal with Iran. So that's not very palatable. So, this is not only a mess, but a very, very convoluted mess that is so complex, mate. It's so complex. Putin had bad advice on this. Yeah, well, he probably did as well. I don't know anything about Putin, if I'm completely honest. Well, I know vague bits about. I know he was part of the KGB, and I know that he's a bit of a Taekwondo fan. Apparently now stripped of his black belt. But
why is that?
Oh, because of the
sanctions.
Invasion. He's an aggressor.
Yeah, right.
I think that the whole idea of
okay, so that's a global thing, is it?
What's that, mate?
The
Taekwondo
accreditation of being a black belt.
It must be. Yeah, I guess it must be. Yeah, it must be the Taekwondo must be some sort of. They must have some sort of centralized body, but he's been stripped of it supposedly. I mean, again, I'm reading these headlines. It could be complete propaganda.
Yeah, exactly.
It's difficult to know.
It does seem clear that he's a one-man band. That was going to be
my point. Yeah, to John, when John saying he's badly advised, was he badly advised, or is he just so hell bent on doing his thing
which will only be made worse by those sorts of things, you would think. But it doesn't matter how much we speculate. We're not Putin, and thank God for that. We just really guessing at what happens next, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, mate. What we do know is that the pressure is being piled on. We know that because we know that companies are pulling out of Russia. We know that Moody's, as I say, that they've rated the Russian debt now as junk. And why would you buy it? Why would you buy Russian debt? Even if you're going to get a 20% return, because the chance that they renege on that debt is extremely high. They're unlikely now to be able to pay off the war that they're going into. And I guess that's the other thing, isn't it? I don't really see where Putin is going to come out of this a winner, even if he takes Ukraine.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time for the world to forgive him, I think, by the sounds of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think until he could take Ukraine, and I suppose this would be a possible way that this scenario plays out. He takes Ukraine, and he's got it, and he thinks brilliant, the job's done, and the rest of the world says no, you're not having it, so we'll just continue to squeeze you. We'll squeeze you until you give it back. And that's why I don't know how he's going to come out of this on top. Russian oligarchs in the UK are getting squeezed. Any kind of Russian involvement in any money that goes back to Russia in the UK is now getting squeezed out. We got Roman Abramovich having to sell Chelsea. This was one of the richest Russians, if not the richest Russian in the world at one point. I can't see how. Either way, how this plays out. Okay, yes, there could be further aggression, and this could ramp up to unprecedented levels, and maybe the world war is eventually a nuclear war. I don't know, but I just don't see how it's going to be. I don't see how it's going to get that far.
Yes, because we are. Yeah, is that John typing? Yes. Yeah, because we are now a global economy. That sort of pressure can be hooked on, can't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So anyway, I guess at the end of the day, business as usual for you.
Yeah, business as usual, mate. FTSE pushes higher, and I think you stay on the long side. The only thing I would say is that when it gets to these levels here, but because back to your original point, the market is respecting the technical patterns right now. We do seem to have a wide range
outside of announcements or calamitous events. I think the market's holding beautifully at levels. Yeah,
it is, and I suspect if we can break through here, this area is the next one. I mean, this is a short, this is definitely a shorting opportunity. I don't see enough information to suggest the market's turning here just yet. So it might float around there for an hour or so, or it might pop through. But if it gets to this level, I suspect the sellers will probably start coming back in again, and we just end up in a little bit of a holding pattern, albeit relatively bearish, a relatively bearish holding pattern. But as I say, the big problem, mate, is that forgetting everything going on with Russia, the offshoot of all this is going to be recession. I can't see anything coming but recession, because the world is so imbalanced right now. And bringing that to point, look at WTI. Huge parabolic move to the upside.
Are you talking global recession, or are you talking where? Where are you talking recession?
There will be. I think there will be a global recession because the states are going to have it, right? I mean, I think, and remembering what the definition of recession is, two prints of GDP that are weaker. So all I'm saying is that we've come off in a row, yeah. So we've come off the back of global equity growth never seen in history over the last sort of 2 years because of higher liquidity. Now we're getting this situation with Russia, which is pushing up, which is pushing inflation to unprecedented levels, and we've got central banks having to move. So the two of them, I don't see how they can meet in the middle of the melting pot and not have quite negative effects. I can't see how any of that can possibly be positive for global growth. So that would suggest to me that the recession is coming. That just on those two equations alone, it just as I say, forgetting everything else, you got inflation which is roaring and not seemingly able to come down because of geopolitical factors, and you got a central bank which has to react. I would suggest that the ultimate the ultimate outcome, is I knew it started with O, but I couldn't think of the word. the ultimate outcome is that we're going to get a recession. I'm kind of confident that Australia will avoid that, as it tends to do in these times. GFC, we avoided it. 38 years, I think it was. Yeah.
That since Australia had a recession prior to the one recession that we've had in 2020 or last year, I can't remember.
It's a funny thing you mentioned Australia. Yeah, it's a funny one you mentioned that, because obviously sort of like, this is a commodity rich country, and not being anywhere near as affected by the current situation as everywhere else. So yeah, I would agree with you on that, except for the fact that the lack of supply, I suppose, that is coming from OPEC plus for oil will affect everybody. So there's going to be sort of like a hike in prices somewhere along the line. I mean, Australia might, as you say, they might actually be a beneficiary of this, because there might be because they are able to control in a way their commodity prices in a way that other countries just aren't able to do.
Yet, as you say, fuel starved. End of story.
Yeah, this is the thing. And I was going to say, I mean, this chart here,
and we're a long way from being self-reliant on oil. That's for sure.
Yes. Look at this though. This point here, and we are looking at these highs here. So we are beyond the highs that we saw back in 2000 and 2011 from what MC4 are giving us here. So does it go to 150 again? Looks like it is going to go to 150 again, but I can't see how a move like this will sustain itself in such a way that when things change, it's just going to plummet. And this is what makes oil, in my opinion, a really dangerous proposition now, because the move has been so parabolic and it's so based on daily stories. It's not based on sort of like, the underlying fundamental aspect. It's based on something which, as you said earlier on, could change in a heartbeat, So WTI, I would say, if you're long, stay long. But trying to get in and trying to make some quick money, you're going to have those stops pretty tight. And that might be difficult because of the volatility. But
Yeah,
the
that's the
short
challenge
side,
that we've got at the moment.
yeah, the short side is going to be painfully felt, I would have thought, mate, on WTI, because it's very rare, and we talked about this with Bitcoin last year. Very rare that it doesn't come back and test where it came from, or at least get near to it, and it is nowhere near that area right now. And we're talking about a potential 30% rise from where it last broke out from. I mean, a 10, 15, 20% drop wouldn't be that unusual or that surprising, in my opinion.
What about the dollar, mate?
Well, dollar, I would suspect will probably, continue to do quite well with Jerome Powell's speech. He's going to speak again today. They don't seem to be curbing back. I think
hit a bit of a stumbling block though.
What did the dollar, or he did?
The dollar since when? Where are we? Last Friday or Monday?
Yeah.
Was it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yeah.
No, last Thursday, which of course was the war.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It hasn't got back to that high yet, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it seems like that to me that looks like the route of travel right now. It looks like the direction of travel looks to me like dollar higher, and there's not a great deal which would suggest otherwise, apart from surprising factors that could happen. I still think the euro is really interesting. I don't think I'd want to trade the euro against the dollar, but I still think the euro is really interesting. And seasonally, and I think we spoke about this already, the euro comes into being the strongest of all currencies. Against the dollar, it's a little bit, you could argue that against the both of them, but against the pound particularly, very, very strong. So if you think that there is going to be a calming of the global situation, that will enable both the pound and the euro to stabilize somewhat. And I think then you can start bringing in, some of these external factors. Now, obviously, we can see that on the monthly, it's coming down. It continues to drop, but I still think that that the euro against the pound is the interesting one because of where we sit. This is pretty strong support that we are. We're a stone's throw away from it. And that's taking all the lows. That's drawing the most simplistic trend line. So I think the euro starts to get a boost up here relatively soon. It does need things to calm down. They are much more intertwined with the scenario than the UK. But if things can calm down, I think the euro pound looks like a potential buying opportunity.
Yep. Talk to me about the yen. The yen's interesting as well, given the geopolitical circumstance. And I've been trying to take advantage of that. But now it appears that the Swissy is now the preferred safe haven currency. Yeah,
undoubtedly, because there's no way Japan are moving. BOJ are not moving. They and this is the thing. If you layer on the surprise aspect, if you like, of what could happen in the market, then you can make a case for the yen. But if you take that out, which you have to, in my opinion, because you don't know what's going to happen next, you can only really look at what's the tone from the central bank, what's the rhetoric from the central bank, what's the data telling you about what the rhetoric's likely to be, and all that points to BOJ not moving. They're kind of going nowhere with their interest rates.
And they've openly stated that.
And they've openly stated it. They're not going to switch on that. Swissy's very, very different in that respect. So my opinion would be, if you like a safe haven, go to the Swissy, and maybe if you're trying to hedge against the potential shock value, trade Swissy yen. I mean, it's that would seem to be the most sensible thing to do. I don't think I'd want to trade the Swissy against the likes of the Aussie, the dollar, or the euro probably. But against the yen, I would say it would probably be okay. I mean, where is it against the yen?
Yeah, it's just broken through a consolidation pattern.
Yeah, I think this would be, that's the way I would look at it, mate. That's the way I would be sort of viewing the Swiss franc. I'd probably want to trade it against, and I suppose this is always the trick, isn't it? You can go down every single economy and which links to every single currency, and you can have an opinion about that currency. But ultimately, you've got to find the pair to trade it against. I like the euro, but I wouldn't want to trade the euro necessarily against the dollar. Probably not. But I would quite like to trade it probably against the pound and probably against the yen as well. You know, you've still got that danger aspect of something breaking out, but I think the euro against the yen would be pretty good too.
Yeah, well, as I showed you, I don't know if you were in when I was talking about euro versus the yen. I've just got out of the short, and now looking to trade it long.
Yeah, that would make sense to me.
But I find it hard in my mind to say that, given the circumstances.
I know. Well, do you know, this is one of the things, mate. I think, in a way, you and I are probably in the safest position of most of the other traders on the team, because we are trying to get in and out. We're trying to actually just take our money, and we're not affected then. You know, literally the thing would have to happen on the second we take our trade, because we're trying to sort of like, you know, do it over a course of a 5-15 half an hour period. Then at least we've got our money in the bank. And if something happens in the next, you know, 23 and a half hours of the day, then we won't get like gapped or margin called, you know, because of being in a trade. So I suppose our risk in some respects going on shorter term time frames is actually reduced.
Unfortunately, I'm not trading at the moment, but I take your point entirely, and I think the in and out quickly is really the way to go right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a very, very kind market from the way that I approach it. I have to be honest, mate, because normally I would look for, you know, maybe 15 pips of a day. If I can get that on the FTSE, I'm in great shape. But I've managed to kind of like, you know, increase the horizon to more like 30. So I'm
because of the volatility,
up, right? Because the volatility is there, yeah. So if it's gonna go, it's gonna go. If I'm wrong and it's going again the other direction, then as I saw yesterday, I kind of got into a trade short. But because the information all of a sudden told me I should go long, I kind of managed to flip positions and you know, get out of the position quite quickly. You know, so things have been a lot easier. Actually, looking at this, the FTSE is just showing some signs of possibly coming down. Glencore up 7% on the day. The FTSE is already starting to weaken. You can see that. FTSE is looking a little bit tepid now, I have to say. You know, off that initial run to the upside, I'm not sure whether I'd necessarily want to get involved. This now looks like maybe this is going to be the range. You know, this may well be the high. So more comfortable now, looking for it to come up here and sell it off. Not sure if the market's going to turn around per se, but yeah, the FTSE looks a bit negative now. But yeah, anyway, mate, I don't know whether we digress. I don't know where we are. John, waiting for the sell on what, buddy? On was that when we were talking about the euro pound? Oh, and oil, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that'll be a hard one to get into, though, wouldn't it? I don't know how you'd approach that. It's a pretty mad move. But I suppose you've had some experience with this now, John, because you did it with the Nasdaq. So because if you go back and use that experience that you traded with the Nasdaq, there was a trigger. There was a trigger point. So definitely oil looks toppy, right? It looks like it could topple at any time, but there's definitely no catalyst at this stage. So we're waiting for that catalyst to appear before we can take anything to the downside. But yeah,
guys, sorry, mate. I did call you guys on pound US dollar early on, and I said if I got exactly what we're seeing here, bar one thing, I would trade it. And the problem is that we've got to trade straight into the low of the day with nothing in the bank. And that's something that I don't do. So the candle's perfect in terms of the size because it gives you 1-to-1 to the daily pivot. But you've only got 3 pips before you hit the low of the day. And the chances of that being significant are too high for me to take that trade. Unfortunately, had this closed here, different story. Or sorry, had its low been here, different story. I'd definitely be taking this short right now. But I've got to trade into the low of the day, and it's something that I just don't do.
So you would have normally looked below the low of that candle to trigger in. Yeah.
If that low had been up here, which gives me enough profit in the bank before I hit that level,
Yeah.
then I'm happy.
Yeah.
But the risk is too high.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm staying out. But you can see what may happen here. We've got a potential left shoulder, potential head, potential right shoulder up here. We could yet get may not happen in a time frame that's suitable. Yeah, I don't like it that much. I don't see how this can set up for me anytime soon, apart from going up here. If it takes out the high, that becomes dangerous. Don't want to take out the high. So I've got an issue.
Yeah.
Got a problem.
Yeah.
I can't. I could trade it as a level. I could trade it as a level off here, but that's not my thing either. But
yeah,
now it's a problem here. Okay, but we're talking tomorrow, and that's no good. So that one's off the table for me, sadly, because it did look like a perfect setup. Never mind. It happens.
Never mind, yeah.
Something with which we must put. Now, the other thing that I really want to have a look at, where's the Aussie gone? There it is. This thing here, actually, before we go there, pound yen now comes into play as well. Now, we have been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting since here, I believe, to trade this short. And because we've had to wait so long, I'm now starting to think that's just not going to happen. So I think the game's changed a little bit. And we've now got, this is our range rather than the bigger range. So now this becomes a short, well, I don't want to trade it short, but daily pivot bounce long. That's probably the way to go here. But look where the pivots are. Very, very, very difficult to trade in this area because you're just trading straight into some resistance. So a bit tough, but we have been waiting for the longest time for that. So the Aussie is still on my radar. And we noticed this range forming, right? And we also noticed this level here, which is key to me. It's a strong support and resistance area at 73-ish, around about the 73 mark. The weekly trend line is suggesting that we are at a strong resistance level, and we're now going into a range, I believe, in terms of the rectangle there. So I'm super keen to track this one, and all I'm waiting for is for it to get either A, above here, I'll draw it so you can see it clearly. Where? My thing's gone. There it is. Okay, so one of two things. First thing is bounce straight off this area and give me a lower high in here, or up here, back underneath after a bit of consolidation and retest that area there. Either way, I think there's a short coming for Aussie US dollar. Now, I won't trade this any other way than those two that I've just shown you. It's got to break resistance or be a lower high based on this double top. That's the only way I'll trade this. And don't forget, you're swimming against the tide here too, because of what we just discussed earlier. The Aussie is in good shape because of commodity prices at the moment. Like I said, the stock market is dragging the Aussie up, nothing else to my mind right now, because don't forget that we are not, as Australian citizens, expecting an interest rate anytime soon from the RBA. They continue to say exactly the same thing. And this week's interest rate announcement and monetary policy statement suggested nothing different to me, nothing different at all. The only thing they have done in the past, two meetings, I think, they've been flagging it for some time, is that the bond or the asset purchases have now ceased. So that part they concede, but the interest rate part they do not concede. And yes, they concede there's pressure, of course. Blind Freddie can see that. But they still are of the opinion that the Australian economy is ticking along at the right rate or the right pace, and for that reason, they have no cause to raise interest rates. Super interesting. That's a bit of a war between commodities and interest rates here in, or the RBA and commodity prices at the moment. So it's an interesting one, and for that reason, if you are thinking of trading the Aussie, as I am, against quite a bag of currencies, then be aware of that. You'll be trading very much against the tide. Commodity prices come off. I think you'll see the Aussie sink like a rock, but that's unlikely in the current geopolitical circumstance as well. So that's kind of where I'm at, mate. I'm still looking for Aussie shorts. I may be looking for them in another 200 pips or 300 pips up. I don't know.
That's interesting, mate. Interesting that you're saying that, because obviously the Aussie is that risk-off currency. I've just placed an order on the FTSE, which I'll show you. Mm-hmm. The picture has changed sort of significantly enough to suggest that actually we could be looking for some downside. Now, I don't know whether this is going to be all out. Hold on one second. All out sort of sell. But I quite like the way this is looking now for some downside. Let me just do that, and I will do this, and I will do that. Okay, so the orders here on the weekly pivot. Now, it might have to come down a little bit to this area. I'm just going to see how many pips that is. It's about 5. It's about 5. I might just shift the order down, but
can I just ask? Oh, sorry, you placed the order, and I'll ask you a question.
I've placed it, mate. The order's there. I might trigger myself. I might end up cancelling the order and triggering it in live, but I like to have one in there just in case it pops.
Okay, can you tell me the time of the high, the dramatic high previous to this one?
Oh, this one.
Time of day, yeah, time of day that happened.
Time of day, that was the end of the end of the day, the close of the session, 4:30 UK.
Oh, okay. I was trying to draw a parallel between that one and the current and the one that's just happened, but that's wrong, obviously.
No, you can draw a parallel, mate, and this is why I trade the FTSE in the morning. So the 3 times of day to trade the FTSE are 8 in the morning, 2:30, sometimes 1:30, 2:30 or 1:30, and I'll tell you why the 1:30 is in a minute, and 4:30 or around about the 4 o'clock. And the reason for that is that the parallel is 8 in the morning is the open, 4:30 is the close. So it's higher liquidity, it's higher volatility there. So if you're a short-term trader, you're going to get an instant reaction. You know, if you got a trend, the trend will the FTSE will tend to rally or sink at those times of day, and it'll tend to move. And the rest of the day, it can be floating around. 1:30 is important because it's a time that we get many announcements from the US, so it's a time to potentially make decisions. And of course, 2:30 is US Open. So these are the points of the day if you're sort of like short-term trading that you want to get involved. So you're absolutely right, man. There is a parallel, and the parallel is that's when the money's in the market.
Yep.
So a big boost up towards the end of the day, drove up, but then this is the other thing. Now I don't, in a way, I'm going to say this, but I want you to hear it with caution. What tends to happen on the FTSE is whatever happens on the way towards the end of the day. So let's say it rallies at the end of the day, it will tend to reverse that move somewhat after the market's closed. So, the next hour, so at 5 o'clock, it tends to reverse that somewhat. It doesn't tend to keep going. And the reason I say that with caution is that, yes, you can trade it, but that is something that you're going to have to work on as a strategy. It's something that I will occasionally do. But the FTSE is looking pretty weak at the minute, mate. And now it's just going to be a case of where can you get in? I mean, people might have to end up getting in at the monthly pivot if it starts to come down here. But let's see if we can get a little bit of a boost. It looks weak. It doesn't look awful. The likes of Glencore still up 5%. We got Anglo America still up 3.5%. So it's not like the market is looking bearish. And this is why I say you may get a short, but you may not get a trend. You might just get a little reaction to the downside. So if it pops to an area that shows some resistance, then I'll take it. If it doesn't, then I'm going to ignore it. I'm not going to worry about it tanking. I'll come back tomorrow.
Okay, happy days. I think, Paul P, why are you in the waiting room? Or is that old?
No, he is in the waiting room. Let's get him in. There he is.
There you go. Didn't he say hello earlier? You must have ducked out. Must have had a loo break, did you, Paul P? We didn't hear a thing, mate.
No.
Okay. I think since we're getting whimsical, we might as well get quizzical as well.
Oh, very nice link, mate. Very nice.
And enter the Thursday theatre of thoughtfulness with
QM. Keep coming.
Jolly John. G'day, mate.
Fire, man. You're on fire. Get on broadcast. Get on broadcast mode. Get your contract.
It's been a long time, I'll tell you. What's going on, bud?
It's all good. It's all good. I'm sorry, Jeff. I was on the opposite side of you yesterday. I was on the buy on pound yen.
Was that good or bad?
I took a trade and I've taken my profit. So yeah, pound yen. I took it on the 1 hour time frame, but I probably took it when everybody else was asleep.
Oh yeah.
Well, I haven't traded it short, so I haven't lost anything.
Yeah.
But I've been waiting to trade it short, but now I'm not. As I said, I've now switched.
So yeah, and all as usual, short in my Nasdaq.
Well done, mate. Well done. I think the Nasdaq's the same, isn't it? We're likely to see sort of like bounces. And I spoke about this on the Telegram channel. The thing is, the market's been so bullish for so long. It's going to be difficult to people to change their mindset. So they'll continue to buy it up and think that there's value as it comes down. So we're likely to get opportunities to get out to the downside. I'm hoping I'm going to get this short on in the market because I quite like it now. It's a little bit tenuous, but you know what? If it pops up and goes beyond, I'm going to leave it on, and then if it goes beyond this level, I'm just going to wait until we get up to that upper trend line. I said I'm going to go short again. The recession aspect, I think, is going to be quite significant now.
Yeah, I get a bit geeky and I like to watch all three to see what they do. And sometimes if the FTSE is going one way, the S&P and the Nasdaq are going the other way. But at the minute, I've not seen it for, it doesn't always happen. Everything's going the same way.
Yeah.
So that sometimes I don't see that. So, I'll have a cup of coffee and check it out later on.
Well, look at what's happening with gold. Gold getting another boost to the upside.
I stay clear of all those things. I just don't do that anymore.
Well, do you know what, mate? As information, it's really useful. And I wouldn't trade. I don't trade the VIX, but look at the VIX today. Again, when you see this, it's telling you that the fear is still very much in play. And I suppose for that reason, you have to still continue to respect the yen. But definitely the Swissy. I think your point on the Swissy earlier, mate, was right on the money.
Yep, I think so. And
anyway,
I tried
John?
to trade. I tried to trade Swissy yen 2 weeks ago long, and it didn't work.
Didn't work. Yeah.
Continue.
One of those, isn't it?
Timing's everything, especially at the moment.
Yeah, I got it to roll. I mean,
you're ready to roll. Okay.
I've got it. Oh, you all disappeared. Oh, I forgot what this thing's like. Chat. I can see chat, but I can't see people. That's just amazing.
Very much so, sweet. Very boring.
Okay.
But on a 1 minute time frame, would have been okay. Range trade.
HSB.
Sorry, John.
That's okay. No problem. I got no problem with that. It's cool, man. I'm used to working as a primary school teacher. Everybody's in here.
Everyone talks.
Everybody's talking. It's the way it goes. What does HSBC stand for?
Right, you have to give us a little bit of time. I'm just moving my entry now, just down a few bits. HSBC, right, now I know this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So you got Hong Kong and Shares Banking Corporation, Hong Kong.
No, it's
Banking
this.
Corporation.
Well, don't put the answer up yet because I've got it's a long one.
Oh no, I'm not. No, okay, yeah. For those interested folks, Midland Bank in the UK was bought up by these guys. I remember my bank account changing back in the day. I thought, I didn't realise I'd changed. Oh, everybody seems to have got the number on that one. A nice, easy one to kick it off with.
Oh gosh, there was I didn't see a multiple choice. Oh,
you're not doing multiple choice. I haven't changed. I'm not being mean.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was doing my trade, and then I thought I'd type it all out. Okay, great.
I sat down with my wife and I said, okay, multiple choice is the way to go.
Yeah.
It's somebody's in. It's easier for everybody because everybody's trading at the same time.
Yeah, and we've all got a chance of getting it right, haven't we?
Yes. The presidents of the Ukraine and Russia read which subject or subjects whilst at university? Economics, politics spelt wrong, my apologies. And international relations. Obviously, I didn't study English at college.
I think it was that, wasn't it?
My apologies on that one. Napoleonics, I must have been thinking about.
I don't know.
I think it was that.
It's me being yes, he was. And that's how he got his gig. I think he was playing some, I don't know, aspect of where he was a president as
yeah, that's what I heard.
Quite a weird, but law. They both.
I didn't know.
Law degree, and it's quite interesting. But the lawyers have to interpret a story and tell a story, and they're both. Oh, okay. I'm going too quick. My apologies. Okay, I'll slow down a little bit. Which city is the home or headquarters of the UN?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's sort of reasonably not political, but it's just like.
I didn't know that either. Why did I know
that? It's not. It's not.
I'm going to go that way.
It's not. It's not well known. I just know this. This is slightly. And my apologies if Americans in the room. That the reason that it is New York. It's in New York, but unfortunately, sometimes Americans used to be late paying their bill.
I don't like the UN. I think they're lame ducks.
Yeah,
they don't do anything.
Not a lot. Which UK football team, or soccer, if you come from down under, or the States, just became available to buy if you've got the cash? Newcastle, United, or Brighton, cracking football team. Chelsea, or Liverpool?
I don't know that either.
Come on, Jeff, mate.
Have a good think, Jeff. Have a good think.
I've been under a rock.
Mention it earlier.
Have a good think. One of those four teams is owned by.
Yeah, I did hear you say that.
That's good.
But I don't remember which team it was.
Well, that's pretty good. I quite like the fact you don't know that, though. That's quite cool.
I can't remember how much he wants. I think that's 60 million, is it? He wants? I can't remember what he wants from that.
Chelsea. Newcastle are already been bagged. Brighton should be. It's a brilliant place. Liverpool, I think, have got an American owner.
They do. What's the guy's name? I can't remember now. It'll come to me.
Okay, what's the new? Back to our job. What's the new BOC overnight rate?
Oh yeah, they raised it, didn't they?
You can see how I've changed. I'm a real geek in the morning now with what I follow first. Everybody is moving in, and everybody is obviously going well. Okay, we should still be getting down with that one.
Wasn't A50? Wasn't.
My apologies. It should be an A. My apologies. Sorry, I can alter that as I go along. I can be a politician. Just
there you go.
Alter the facts. Obviously, somebody should get this. This is.
I'll be last to answer because I know, of course.
Which Australian state has just reopened its borders? In Kuala Lumpur. This particular question is quite topical. We have a lot of Australians live here.
All right, I'll answer now.
Things.
Everyone's waiting
Hopefully
for
I've
me
got
to
this
answer.
right. I don't want to get batted out.
Right, FTSE short. I've just taken a short on the FTSE just for everybody's information. Short on the FTSE is triggered.
Oh, you're right. Thanks for what is the new key rate of the Russian central bank? 15, 10, 20, or 25?
Oh,
It's quite good today. If today's show, if you were listening and listening hard, you would have been getting some information.
Yeah. Pretty,
it sounds like we've been insider trading or colluding over the question.
yeah.
You've scripted us today.
Quite a nice way to do it in a way.
It's in the background, you know. I was trying to second guess what we might be talking about. It's a crazy 20%. I still won't take it.
Yeah, it's hard not to talk about it, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah. And I agree with you, John. You still wouldn't say that, would you?
No way, no chance. No way, man. Okay, interesting one. Which country has broken its neutrality? Luxembourg, Switzerland, Andorra, or Liechtenstein?
I'm going to go with them. I'm not aware of this story, but I'm going to go with them.
Well, I heard the banks have done that. I'm assuming we're talking about the same country, John. The banks have
they
turned their.
This country don't usually get involved. They sit on the fence on everything.
Yep.
Which is it's neither it's water off the duck's back to me. But the fact that they've done it for the first time is it's just interesting for me.
There'd be a lot of people nervous over that.
Oh, I think so. There'll be a few.
Cayman Islands, here I come.
Which was the world reserve, not reverse, currency before the dollar? The Deutschmark, pound sterling, the French franc, or the Swiss franc? Oh yeah, I think everybody's on a bit of a roll there.
Yeah, nice quiz this one, John.
Sometimes they go well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I tie everybody up in knots, but I think it's all sort of topical at the minute. I think. Last one. In which city does the European Parliament meet? Strasbourg in France, Brussels in Belgium, Berlin in Germany, or Rome in Italy?
I think I've got this one wrong before. I'll probably get it wrong again. A lot of people can. It's a bit like if you're in South Africa, that it's got 3 capital cities, so you've got to be careful which one is done for which. Somebody's in with. Somebody's got one so far. Yes. We should be coming up with Strasbourg.
Very nice.
Yeah, wrong for me. I got it wrong the second time.
That's where the Parliament meet. The other branches are in different places. I can't remember off the top of my head. There we are. We're done.
Nice quiz, mate. I really like that one.
Well, you got them all right, did you?
No, I think there was one wrong. I
got about 4 wrong.
I like the topics, though. I like the fact that it's very, very topical. It's all kind of based on what we're talking about at the minute.
Yeah, I had a sort of, I had a stiff cup of coffee and thought, right, make this so it's relevant to everybody without being politically biased on anything. Does it make sense? Because I find that quite tricky because of my upbringing, and then trading at the same time is I found it very tricky last week. But I took the right trades, but I still found it quite tricky to trade and put everything to one side.
Yeah.
But I took your advice, like you say always.
As you know, I have that challenge every time we come in here. Yeah. And it is not an easy thing, and it can affect your trade if you're trying to do something else at the same time.
Yes, It absolutely is, which I'm trying to do right now. I'm just going to show you this trade before we go, and then we can talk about any other business.
Strange is that. Where did you get the cameras gone? Why have I?
And you guys can make your own choices on whether you want to take it or not. Okay, so we'll finish with this, and I'll pass it back to you. We want to go here and here. Okay, so I've taken the short here.
I can't see you.
And I'm taking profit here. You know what? I mean, I think that there is some downside coming, and it's just not my way to kind of, you know, just what we were just talking about maybe changing the profit line. It's just not my way to hold on to a trade. So I am coming out of first contact. First contact is obviously the monthly pivot, but there is a daily pivot below it, and there's this trend line below it. Now, if that gives way, then it could be dire. And it's very early in the day, but you know, if it does give way, this particular bar is going to look like a pretty good trigger for some pretty hefty selling coming into the market over the course of the next couple of days or next couple of weeks potentially. Because what we've got down here is a lower low, and this is on the dailies. You know, I'm trading off this 5 minute time period, if you like. But if you can see here, down there, back up again, and see if we can take that down. But if you look in this on the dailies, then you can see it's the same deal. I'm not trying to do anything particularly creative. There's the low. Whoops. There's the low down there, and this looks like a potential higher low here. There's a high up here. There's a high here. And there's the ultimate high there. And that's a higher low, higher low. So it's just sort of like trying to take the higher low. Now, because you can see
lower high.
Lower high, sorry, lower high. What am I doing here? The higher low. Let me just, I'm gonna have to start again there, Jeff. Lower high, lower high, lower high. It's a funny thing that, isn't it? Because
it is. You know exactly what you want to say, and it comes out the other way.
Well, yeah, and this is the one kind of term that I have continuously got wrong. You know, when I
I'm
kind
exactly
of
the same.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Okay, so we got the low there, and there we got the lower low down here. So, but ultimately, you can see that this is the thing. It doesn't matter what it's called; it matters what it's doing. So that's what it's doing, and I guess I'm looking for this area to come down. But as I say, I'm coming out early because that's my approach. But if the market does, give us a reversal bar here, then it's going to look like it could come down, not just down here, but quite a long way down.
Yeah, you've got a pretty decent neckline there. If that breaks,
yes.
You're right down to where you're pointing at the moment, I would have thought.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And this is, you know, it got pretty messy in here, and inevitably it will do because there's so much emotion going around the markets right now. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So you're looking at kind of all that, and we're potentially looking at, you know, a scruffy old neckline doing something like that, I guess.
You could bring that across from the highs to the left as well.
From the highs here.
No, the trend line. The neckline, you could bring it right across to there. Yeah.
Let me just do this and do it on MT4 because I can manipulate the line. Oops, this one here.
You can go right to the, yeah, but if you come across to the highs to your left, there's two highs, descending highs.
Ah, yeah, I see what you mean. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, that's going to look really negative because what you're suggesting
that's what I mean.
Could be that's the pattern.
Yeah,
whereas
maybe
the head, and we potentially sort of like come back up again to make. Yeah, that could be the case where we get the head and shoulders like that, which means we're part of the head, which still drives us down here. But it does look. I mean, sorry, it's getting pretty messy here because I'm drawing with the mouse. But it does look like this market is got the potential to come down here. You know, whether it collapses, I don't know, but I don't see many things in the way of upside. The upside has still been pretty has been relatively kind so far, but overall I think this market's coming down, and for that reason, if this doesn't work, let's say I don't get to take profit here and all of a sudden it starts going up, I will remain in this, or if you prefer, you can put stop losses and come out. And I'm going to try again here, because as I say, I think that there's enough negativity to add nervousness to get the sellers back into this market and drive us down again. So I quite like it. I quite like the way this is looking. But there's the trade anyway. The trade is for a short on the FTSE 100. I am just trying to go between the pivot and this lower pivot here. Looks like I've got pretty close there, but it didn't quite make it. But let's see if it happens. I might end up taking this a little bit earlier off, mate, because the market still looks okay. When you got Glencore up over 5%, it doesn't suggest it's going to tank, which is why first contact's important. But it might be that first contact's a little bit too far down. So we'll mess with it as we go. But there's the trade anyway, mate.
Happy days. Good luck. Ride that one home, guys, if you wish. I think we're done. I don't really have much to add. I'll just go through a couple of things, I suppose, to reiterate what I have said. I'm looking for the Aussie short, but it's got to give me what I'm looking for. It's got to give me a false break, or it's got to come back into the range and give me a lower high. Only two options there, because if this does go with what the stock market is suggesting, and that is higher commodity prices, then this will probably find its way up to 75 or even 75.5. So that's the only way I can trade this is as a false break, pretty much, or as a lower high, still underneath that trend line. Same with pretty much all the Aussie pairs. The only thing I really wouldn't like to trade it against right now is the yen, because the yen is finding weakness today, I believe. We'll see how that pans out, which is why I've come out of euro yen. That's why I've been tracking it down and getting my stops pretty tight. The other,
you were getting your tights pretty still.
That's why I don't trade underneath here. This could still go, but it's going to give you a lot of pain as it comes off here. Maybe it just breaks through there. What I'd like to see probably is a close below that low now, which is the low of the day, equal, and then a retest of that trend line. Then I can place an order underneath there and still take profit at the daily pivot. So that's still in play. Pound US dollar. Aussies, you know about. Euro's hopeless, I think, for me today because of where it's situated. Maybe not hopeless, but I think I'm a fair way away from the trade. You could, pardon me, and the reason is the edge has been taken away. But the edge being, of course, we know that the daily pivot is an attractive price point for euro dollar on any given day. Maybe this is a higher low. Wow, it's almost a trade there. I say almost. You've still got to trade into the daily pivot. Let me just go a bit tighter on that. Double bottom, higher low potential, but you've got to trade into something that's just giving you hammer, 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 can't get through, can't get through, can't get through. Risk 20 pips, reward 4. Dash it, dash it, dash it. Maybe we come down to DS1. If I got the same bar, then versus the dollar, but I'll be wanting it out pretty quick because I think it's got much in it. It may get to trend more, but I'll get further. I want to trade bottom broadening pattern. We've been trying to get to the bottom for 2-3 weeks. I'm willing to trade it more, but where to? And I don't see too much before you hit resistance. Maybe it's that level, 111.50. How much does that give us? We get in down here, risk of about 20 pips. Oh, that's okay. It's about a 3-to-1 shot. So yeah, I'm in for that. If the lows get taken out, then I'd have to wait for another higher low. But if we get a higher low in here, I think it might be worth looking at, but only short term at this moment. Righto, that's me done. I don't think there's anything else that I want to look at, to be fair.
FTSE just triggered profit, mate. So we end the week with a little profitable one.
Good on you, mate. Well done. Well done. All right,
Thank you, mate.
We're out of here. On that note, thank you, John.
Yeah. Well, good.
Brilliant. We'll catch you next week.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the quiz as always, and thanks for everybody in the room. See, we got might have some new people in there today, I think. But yeah, welcome to everybody that is new. Feel free to come on camera, or if you want to have a little chat with Jeff or I. Ask us any questions about trading you like. We'll help you out as much as we can. You know, there's no holds barred here. We're not trying to hold anything back. We'll try and give you some trades as we go. But have a great weekend. And to you, John, have a great weekend. Thank you as always, mate. Brilliant quiz. And if we stay on that kind of line, I think we're potentially going to. We might have some awards given. I don't know. You never know. We might get invited onto some award ceremony. And Jeff, go and do something with your tights, mate. Get them straightened out. Right.
I'll put some on.
We will see you next week. Thanks so much for being my trading buddy, as always, mate. Have a good weekend.
You too, mate. And thank you all for being our trading buddies. And we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.